Every rivet, every seam, telling the story of a forgotten Messerschmitt Bf 109 left behind in the forest. Every rivet, every seam, telling the story of a forgotten Messerschmitt Bf 109 left behind in the forest.
Discovering this long-lost Messerschmitt Bf 109 deep in the forest, completely overtaken by rust and wilderness.
Zooming in on the fuselage, rust has completely devoured the original structure.
Close look at the left wing, riddled with rust holes and sunk gear.
Inspecting and cleaning the heavily rusted and damaged cockpit interior of the Messerschmitt Bf 109.
Now removing the front engine cowling bolts in sequence, labeling each one for reassembly after rust treatment.
Partially lifting the right wing with crane to access rusted fuselage rivets underneath for inspection and removal.
Soaking the left landing gear strut bolts with penetrating oil to free the rusted assembly for removal.
Labeling and boxing all small bolts from access panels, photographing before disassembly.
Clearing decades of dust and spider webs from the cracked canopy glass to assess the damage underneath.
Applying WD-40 to free the seized rusted propeller hub and shaft after initial loosening.
Measuring the destroyed pilot seat and rotted control pedals for replacement planning.
Raising fuselage on jack stands for better undercarriage access.
Low-pressure rinsing dry mud from exterior chassis.
Scraping old paint from the wheel areas after stripper softens it.
Applying chemical stripper to soften the peeling paint on the upper fuselage before scraping.
Wire brushing light rust off the wing rivets safely.
Pressure rinsing the body, then drying with microfiber towels.
Degreasing the dirty engine bay with spray and soft sponge.
Vacuuming dust and mud from the cockpit entry floor.
Degreasing the dirty engine bay with spray and soft sponge.
Sanding rust off exterior antennas with 400 grit.
Microbead blasting the forward fuselage to remove oxidation dust.
Sanding rust off exterior antennas with 400 grit.
Ultrasound scanning wing ribs for internal corrosion cracks. Neutralizing acid residue with baking soda spray before rinsing.
Applying phosphoric acid to dissolve this heavy rust on the left wing before brushing it off.
80 grit manual sanding to level rust-damaged wing surfaces.
First coat zinc chromate primer on right wing for corrosion protection.
Rust removal, then converter on flaps.
Applying thin epoxy primer to the belly panels now, sealing those prepped rivet holes and bare metal to prevent corrosion comeback.
Letting the primer cure in natural late afternoon light now. Final check confirms exterior rust is fully addressed before next layers.
Cutting fresh 2mm aluminum patch for that big central fuselage rust hole. Exact fit coming right up.
TIG welding the patch precisely now. Argon cools it clean for strength. Reinforcing left wing rib crack with doubler plate. Solid backup now. I am installing new flush rivets along the wing root joint to match the original aerodynamic profile before we move on to filler and primer. Now I am filling this badly stretched belly dent with epoxy filler so I can reshape the original curve before sanding it smooth. I am shaping this epoxy filler with 120 grit and vacuuming the dust so the belly matches the original BF109 contour. Here I am welding a replacement bracket into the tail frame so the structure is solid again before we hang skins and start any cosmetic work. I am using a light hydraulic press to straighten this bent body panel, working section by section so the curve matches the original. Here I am loading the repaired frame to check that the brackets and welds hold without any cracking before we reinstall skins and commit to paint. I am applying this second anti-corrosion primer coat over all the weld repairs so the metal is sealed and ready for high build primer.
Sanding the full body with 220 grit to create a level surface before primer application, ensuring every filler patch blends seamlessly.
Wiping down with tack cloth to eliminate all sanding dust before applying the primer coat.
Spraying RLM 74 dark gray base on all upper surfaces for camouflage foundation. Applying zinc chromate base coat fully over fuselage and wings for corrosion protection primer layer.
Masking panel lines meticulously before spraying RLM 75 medium grey on wings. Spraying RLM 74 dark grey base on all upper surfaces for camouflage foundation.
Applying final touches to the belly in authentic RLM 76, ensuring new rivets pop against the base coat for historical accuracy.
First thin clear coat goes on to seal the RLM 76 base and protect against handling.
Inspecting and touching up clear coat runs for perfect satin finish before next layer.
Wet sanding the first clear with 600 grit to knock down orange peel and build that initial gloss. Removing the decased pilot seat bolts from the cockpit floor to access the underlying structure. Disassembling the cracked instrument panel to expose and label the aged wiring loom. Soaking rusted rudder pedals in vinegar.
Full vacuum of cockpit powder before floor scrubbing.
Drilling out these frozen rivets on the throttle quadrant to free up this rusted assembly. Breaking down the worn control stick and rescuing these pitted ball bearings. Mapping corrosion on the cockpit overhead beams for structural repairs. Documenting sidewall damage after removing the left side panel.
Pulling out decayed wiring from the cockpit conduits.
We're just reinforcing the overhead beam with these doubler tabs now, making sure the structure can handle the seat and canopy loads safely. I'm using period correct patterns and this subdued RLM 66 leather to make sure the cockpit looks authentic yet safe for operation. We're polishing the BF109 rudder pedals just enough to remove the rust, then greasing the bearings for smooth control without erasing the original character.
He is recalibrating the BF109's primary flight instruments so the airspeed indicator and altimeter will give trustworthy readings while still looking period correct.
We're routing these new cloth braided harnesses along the sidewall here, making sure they clear the throttle linkage before we tighten the clamps.
We're applying the correct RLM 66 color to the instrument panel. The finish is deliberately matte and textured.
Polishing the BF109 control stick aluminum to a functional satin finish and testing smooth movement in the linkages so it responds precisely like the original. Strengthening BF109 overhead beam with doubler rivets for safe load bearing while keeping original geometry.
Installing accurate BF109 WW2 decals on instrument panel for authentic pilot view.
Removing the rusted cylinder head from the DB601 engine block, exposing the internals for full rebuild. Cleaning rusted piston rings in ultrasonic bath to restore proper sealing surfaces.
Inspecting valve stems and replacing worn seals with durable Viton material for reliable operation.
Light honing of cylinder bores to ensure optimal compression and lubrication.
Measuring crankshaft journals with micrometer to verify bearing tolerances.
Torquing the main bearing caps to exact specs on the DB601 block, Precision assembly ensures reliable inverted V12 performance.
Setting valve timing with degree wheel on the DB601, aligning cams precisely to factory specs for perfect synchronization.
Priming the oil system manually face, purging air until pure flow confirms full lubrication coverage before first start.
Lock fitting the DB601 to the firewall, perfect alignment before final bolting secures the heart of this BF109.
Priming the oil system manually, purging air until pure flow confirms full lubrication coverage before first start.
Torquing left wing root bolts to spec, securing main carry-through spars locks the BF109's legendary elliptical wing permanently.
Greasing new main landing gear struts fully dealt. Proper lubrication ensures smooth extension and retraction for BF109's narrow track handling.
Rigging horizontal stabilizer and elevators to neutral incidence. Precise cable tension restores authentic BF109 tail control authority.
Permanently installing the engine and connecting fuel coolant systems. Sealed lines ready for first pressurization test.
Wiring cockpit to engine harness. Reliable electrics power BF109's Revi sight and gauges. Final polish with compound and wax sealant, bringing the BF109's exterior to showroom perfection. Testing cockpit lights and basic instruments. BF109 avionics coming alive.
Wings gleaming. Restoration masterpiece complete.
BF109 reborn, like new in the shop, ready to fly.